the layoffs, also, how do you prepare yourself financially? Because you taught me how to do it, so I kind of want to hear you on like the show to say how do you prepare yourself financially if that situation happened?
mean, so like for me, I have my checking account that basically has 2 to 3 months of whatever my expenses are, right? So if let's say it's $4,000, there's $12,000 sitting in that account. Then in the savings account, probably have another 2 or 3 months, and that
Hmm.
savings account is a high yield savings account. And then everything else outside that is basically just in a safe like index fund of some way. So it's probably just tracking against like S&P 500. And it's, I mean, so if I got laid off, I would have 6 months roughly of
Hmm.
runway. Like that's basically my emergency fund or however you want to name it. But it's 6 months of cash that's quickly accessible. And then the rest of everything else is in the stock market, right? So if anything is beyond 6 months, then I'll start to sell off and bring some of that cash forward. But I'm pretty confident that I could go and get something within 6 months. And
Yeah.
that's how it helped me determine that that buffer could be 6 months. I have some friends, it's 4 months. I have some friends that it's basically like, you know, maybe 8 months, 9 months. So I think everyone has their own individual tolerance of where they want to be in terms of like that cushion. But yeah, that's how I have mine structured.
So I'm
I,
gonna nitpick on two of yours.
sure.
How do you define your monthly expenses? Just kind of going on just
Hmm.
as a educational standpoint. How do you map that out to even say I have enough for a month? So what are your line items and things to consider?
Yeah. So I have a mortgage. So it's my mortgage plus property insurance, utilities, homeowners insurance, all of that kind of stuff. It'll be that plus I'm almost done paying off my car. So car payment plus car insurance. It's any of the needs, right? So I'll have
Hmm.
a certain amount allocated for food, and mostly that's for like groceries, where I have it roughly around like $100 a week. I rarely go out to eat, so I only have like a going out budget of like maybe 50 or $100 a week. And I consider like my phone a necessity of life just because of the utility that comes with it. So my phone plan, because I'm not on a payment plan for my phone, so the phone plan would be incorporated as well. And I'm trying to think if there's like any other things that typically people miss. So like I don't have any minimum payments on credit cards or anything like that. So I don't have to worry about any of that as part of
Gas.
that core function. Oh, that's a good point. So gas would be rolled up into car payment plus, car insurance. I think
Yeah, so basically,
that's
yeah, all of them. Like same thing for me.
yeah, I think it's all, I mean, it's basically housing, whatever's attached to housing, transportation, whatever's attached to transportation, food, whatever it's kind of attached for food, whatever that blend looks like between eating out or
Hmm.
eating in. And then, I mean, I'm not a big shopper, so I don't need to like, I mean, and shopping is not a need, right? Like if you lost your
No.
job, you should not be going out and buying $300 Arc'teryx freaking jackets, right? Like, so in terms of like need, something over my head, something to get me from point A to point B, something to fill my belly, and
Hmm.
basically that number times however months I'm looking for as my reserve.
Mm. And then the last nitpick is how do you save, like how do you allocate your savings to towards that fund? You know what I mean? You can't just put a large sum of it. That's how people like, oh, I wish I can save up for that. Like, no, it's like putting pennies in a piggy bank. So how would you start saving? Because I never actually asked you that, and I'm kind of
Like
curious
how did
myself.
I get started before having that money sitting there?
Yes, yes. Then you can stop allocating to that fund once it's fully filled to hit your need, and then you can diverge away.
Yeah, I think so. I started this pretty relentlessly the year I got out of college. So
Hmm.
coming out of college, I think it was like 18,000 in student loan debt. Salary at the time was around 60K. And so I was looking to cut expenses as much as possible so I could burn down that student loan debt. And So that included, getting roommates, right? I think a lot of people have the option to getting your own thing, but getting roommates, saving, like, the biggest expense that most individuals have is housing and living, right? It's the largest fixed expense on anyone's budget. So getting that number down as low as possible. At the time, the car I had, there was no car payment. Um, Shopped at Costco for food, right? Like, just basically, I lived like I was still in college for the next year outside of college. But obviously, I had a full time job, and that created a pretty big buffer between expenses and what I'm bringing in coming into the home. After the first year, right, got my annual bonus, um, put that all away, right? I think a lot of people go and spend it, but like, you kind of got to balance, forecasting that out. So both the bonus and the raise, like, I didn't acknowledge the raise, so that amount went into savings or whatever, and then the bonus went into savings, and then there was that gap between um expenses and what I made. And being in the San Francisco Bay Area at the time, everything's freaking expensive there. So,
Yes. I'm
like,
barely
just
saving,
being
so
really, really conscious around that.
yeah. So for me to save, there's two ways to do it. And again, if whatever is left over, which is unfortunate. So just going off the budget, and by budget I mean is was it 50 30 20
Mm-hmm.
rule?
Yep.
For mine, unfortunately, goes into like 65 needs. So 50 30 20 is 50% of your salary should be going to, of your monthly salary, whatever, of your monthly salary. 50% going to your needs, 30% going to your wants, 20% going to your savings. Again, back to living in the Bay Area, it's more for me, it's about 7% of my savings and um 30% in majority, and now I'm lost. But most of my stuff is going into just making sure I have a roof over my head and food in my belly. But yeah, one strategy for me is just put something. Something's better than nothing. And once me and my girlfriend move in, it'll open up my paycheck a lot more. Then I can say I mapped it out and I can do a full 20%. So my thought process was I want to get it done within a year or 2 years. And what does that time look like? And how much money do I need to put into it to be done in the next 2 years to make sure I can get this done, not compromising anything else in my budget. So yeah, that's how. There's two ways that I would do it. Is that something's better than nothing, then two, working backwards and figure out your monthly to put it in if you have it.
What do you think about being super ruthless in trying to achieve that versus, I work hard, I should be able to treat myself along the way?
I'm gonna go back to the thing I said. Sacrifice the person you want, person you are today for the person you want to become.
So you'd be just super, super ruthless with it?
Yeah, and I'm also simple. There's nothing wrong with it. Um, I don't go out to parties or raves or anything else. Do eat out, but I do travel a lot, but I also allocate my savings towards travel. So I say it this way, if I mess up, I don't get to travel, and that's my reward. And people say, you're so lucky traveling. Well, I map out my trips. We already planned Tanzania for February 2024. That's in 10 months, and we scheduled it like 11 months ago.
Yep.
And yeah. Also, did you get your flight, by the way?
Yes, I got my flight.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Like, peasant.
No, no, I got my flight. It's not like your flight, but I'm also
Is the
still
same?
looking.
Oh, okay. Okay. Same flight though?
Only going into Tanzania. We meet in
Oh,
Ethiopia.
oh, okay. Shame.
Okay, context for everybody, because this is where he's freaking going with this. We're both really into point hacking with credit cards. And so we were both looking to get flights to Tanzania from the West Coast. We were going to book with points on business class all the way through. I found one. He booked it. It was the last one. And so he's going business class the entire way. I
Thank you
will
for
be
doing all the
writing,
research.
yes, and I will be writing partial coach for a decent amount of it, honestly, on that trip. So
Yeah. But I digress. we plan our stuff way in advance.
The shit will come back on you, dude. Watch.
It really will. It really will. But again, being ruthless in that, like, I think my most reward is that instead of eating clean, I'll go to Jack in the Box. Sounds horrible, but yeah, like that's I'm a simple individual, man.
Yeah, no, I mean it
So
makes
yeah.
sense. Like being super super ruthless. I don't know if I could be as ruthless as I was at this age versus when I was like 22.
Hmm.
It's a lot harder, I think now, which also means that like
Bougie
if
now.
you're in a situation of doing it at like at this age, you got to take it that much more seriously. Like
Yeah.
actually seriously.
There's not much room for error anymore in the grand scheme of things, because goals of for me to retire by 40, which is we'll see if that's still even possible. Right now, I'm aiming for the stars and hoping to land in the clouds. But yeah, we don't have wiggle room as much because next 5 years we're aiming to get having family and kids and more other stuff. So it's taking risks is totally possible, but it needs to be more calculated.
Yeah. The biggest piece is like that. The life gets more complicated the older that you get.
Mm,
And unless you're single and still on a little island by yourself, those other things are going to be taken into consideration, specifically around finances. And
hmm.
that's where it just becomes super difficult, especially if you're not aligned with that other person.